Hi there. It's been over a year since I talked about what I want to see in DRG, and in that time the game has changed quite a bit, so I thought I'd run through some ideas going through my head recently. Also, some of the things I wanted from the previous video were actually added to the game, including the paper crown, truly an honor, thank you management. So yeah, let's go through some of my ideas. Cave variety. Okay, to be fair, my view on this topic could be a little skewed as someone with thousands of hours, but I feel like this game thrives on its cave variety. In a previous video I mentioned a few things that I think would spice up the experience, machine events or double mutators. At this point in time, I feel like it would be better to see more variety in the cave generation as a whole. Point extraction especially could use some love. It still is running through only a handful of cave generations, and you really start to notice them pretty early on. Tunnels could also use some attention in some way. Traversing them becomes pretty trivial early on. One biome that actually does change things up quite a bit is Hollow Bow. With all the roots and stuff, it honestly becomes a little more difficult to navigate and it can be kind of confusing. It'd be good to see some of the stuff they did there applied to other biomes, like crystalline caverns having more weird crystal shapes specifically for tunnels or something like that. One idea I've actually mentioned on stream a few times is an error mutator, so the terrain would be all glitchy and odd, and some bugs would be all glitched out and act differently. This would be a really cool theme for a season, just like a glitch season in general, and maybe they could actually add a use for the error cubes with that too. Honestly, adding more mutators that change the terrain generation as a whole would be a really great way to jumble things up across the board, and I'd love to see that be the focus of future mutators. Grenades. I know new grenades are coming in Season 3, and I'm sure they already have them planned out, but hey, I thought I'd throw my ideas out there. For Scout, I liked the idea of a lightning arc grenade. These would essentially just shoot bolts of lightning out at all enemies in a specific radius, dealing damage over time and slowing them down in the process. Scout's grenades are really important for doing AoE damage, so I feel like when you're designing a new one, it probably still has to do AoE damage in some capacity. Combining that with some of the slowdown effects from lightning would be a really neat way to change up Scout's gameplay. For NG, I thought a regen grenade would be pretty cool. This would essentially be like the healing pods from the Tyrant Weed. You throw it down and any player near it would regen health for a set period of time. I feel like NG's playstyle changes significantly depending on what grenade you choose, and this would fit pretty well. Gunner's grenades are pretty straightforward at the moment. You got fire, explosion, and multiple explosions. I think the best thing to do from there would just give them something a little weird, kind of funky, and this would be a modified pheromone canister. Instead of making the bugs fight each other though, I think it should just increase weak point damage on any enemy it hits. Actually, that's just the Girardi from TF2, but it wouldn't be a jar of pee, at least I hope not. Somehow Driller still has one grenade I think that's viable. Neurotoxin is okay, I guess, and HE grenades are just so bad. They're so bad. But if I were to add a grenade to Driller, I think it would pretty much just mine out terrain. Doesn't do any damage to enemies, but allows players to dig out large areas with the toss of a nade. Cool way to add more support to Driller. He already digs a lot, but hey, that's the whole point, look at his name. I really hope Season 3 brings some changes to Driller's current grenades though. I can't imagine they won't. Cosmetics. Now last time when I talked about cosmetics, it was a lot of the video. I think it was like a fourth of the video. But this time I don't really have much to say. The seasonal content just brings so much stuff and it's a wide variety, so I can't really complain about what's available. Pretty much everything I could have asked for is all wrapped up in the seasons. Except for one thing, hair colors are still being drip fed. One per season, and I'm gonna say it, it's just too slow. I mean, there's so many unused color options still. You got dark purple, dark green, multicolor options. I mean, it's endless what could be added. If Season 3 has more than one new hair color, I will write a heartfelt thank you note to Ghost Ship. It'll be almost poetic, mark my words. New drinks. The Abyss Bar menu has been the same for a while now. I think it could use a little more specials to spice things up. I'd love to sit here and go through some of my ideas, but I actually did this already. It's in a previous video, the drinks of DRG. You can check that out after this one, it's a good time. Deep dives. After doing a ton of deep dives, I'm starting to get kind of burnt out on them. Don't get me wrong, they're a really fun time, and they're probably some of my favorite content in the game. They just need some new stuff thrown in the mix. OSR and escorts still can't appear as secondaries, and the same goes for the rival stuff too. Deep dives have been such a great part of this game, but I feel like they're kind of getting left in the dust with the last few updates. Could really benefit from more variety. Getting the same thing each week can get pretty old after a bit, and it kind of drives you away from doing it. Perks. I saved the best for last, and by that I mean it's completely normal and not that surprising. The perks could use a little update, whether that's adding new ones or balancing what's already available. I don't think they're in a terrible place, but there's room for improvement. Beastmaster could use some buffing, maybe make it so the player can have multiple tamed bugs at a time, just keep the cooldown. See You in Hell really needs something too. If a perk relies on you being downed to function, it better be pretty good, and when Iron Will is an option, it just feels like there's no reason to pick See You in Hell. Maybe make it so if the player kills enough bugs with the explosion, they get revived, and there's no limit to how many times you can do that per mission. Obviously it would have a cooldown. I genuinely think this design would move some people using Iron Will over to See You in Hell, even though it's a little more difficult to get the revive. Berserker really needs its own separate key to activate it because I accidentally do it all the time and I don't mean to. I don't know if that's enough to really bring this up to par with the rest. I think it'd make it easier to use it more effectively, which obviously improves it. Shield Link could use a buff that brings it up to par with Field Medic. I think the passive effect could get a pretty significant increase in radius, and that would honestly make it worth taking alone. It's such a good concept because Shield Link doesn't really need to be taken by everyone to feel the effect for the whole team. So I feel like just increasing the radius, being able to get more of your team in there at once, and increase shield regeneration would be huge. It might not be as much as the previous video, but that's all I had on my mind at the moment. The past few updates have really brought a ton of stuff to the game, and I had a little less to talk about this time around. But regardless, I wanted to get my ideas out there since it's been a bit. If you like my videos and want to see more of them get made, consider supporting me on Patreon. It starts at $2 and you get your name displayed at the end of all my videos. Thank you for watching. Rock and Stone.